And when Brian Hubbard goes on to Joe Rogan and talks about Ibogaine in these evangelical terms, that it is going to save everybody, and um, it's magical and it's a panacea. Um, that simply is not true. Ibogaine doesn't heal anybody. People heal themselves with the help of Ibogaine.
This is the Strange and Mysterious World podcast, in conjunction with Elucis TV. These are your hosts, Lee Strydom and William Collinson.
So, welcome to Strange and Mysterious World, Season 5, Episode 15. We have tonight's guest, actually was the weekend's guest, because we're having to redo the intro here because my sound was so bad where I was on holiday, so you could hardly hear me talking. Anyway, so this is for that specific podcast. The guest was Anders Beatty. He is an Ibogaine preparation and integration specialist and the founder of Ibogaine Counseling Services. His work sits at the intersection of addiction, trauma, and personal transformation, supporting people before and after Ibogaine across clinics like the Inner Realms, Iboga Quest, Anselmo, the Living Lodge, Michalis, and Ambio. He's been involved in shaping conversations at both clinical and government levels, including ethics work in the Bahamas, and is known for challenging the idea that Ibogaine is a quick fix. For Anders, it's a threshold, and what matters is what you do with what you're shown. So yeah, welcome Anders.
Yeah, lovely to have you, Anders.
Lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
So tell us, how did you get into Ibogaine? What's your journey?
What's my origin story? My origin story is I got into Ibogaine through a kind of personal journey through addiction, and I suppose from kind of the mid-20s until my mid-40s, I was in hardcore active addiction, and during that period, I tried every modality of healing you could imagine. Well, the modalities of healing which are out there, which are, detoxes and rehabs and the 12 steps. And I miserably failed at making those modalities work for me. And so by the time I was at 45, I was in quite a desperate situation. I didn't recognize who I was anymore. And somehow Ibogaine came into interview, and I went and did Ibogaine, and it was an absolute game changer. It required a lot of work attached to taking the Ibogaine, but the Ibogaine really was the stepping stone into walking into the life that I should have always walked into. And, I think this is an important thing to say, that Ibogaine allows you to become the person you were supposed to be before the world got its hands on you. So that's kind of my origin story around addiction and how that led me to Ibogaine. I studied integrative counseling as an addict many years ago, and I was persuaded by a couple of people within the Ibogaine industry to, try and help people in pre-treatment and integration. Funny enough, I kind of rejected that idea for a very, 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 very long time, and I actually went and did a first session with a client in order to keep one of the providers quiet, because he was bugging me so much about perhaps trying to help. I didn't really want to do it. And at the end of that first session, pretty much this protocol that I've got now came out fully formed. And it was almost as if I was a vessel rather than came up with a very clever protocol. It just kind of worked. And so that's where I am now. And I've been working in the Ibogaine world for 10 to 12 years. It's truly my passion. I see miracles on a daily basis. And it's a real privilege to kind of see people, prepare people, and help them integrate and see them, attached to a new life of meaning and purpose. So yeah, that's kind of my origin story.
Okay, so I mean, you've seen thousands of these cases, and
Mm-hmm.
is truly as good as it's made out to be? Look, I mean, I've gone through the whole experience myself, and I mean, it was truly when I came out. I mean, the day afterwards, like, I took this stuff, and it was intense, and it was very, actually, it was quite horrible. And then the next day, it was, they call it Grey Day, but I didn't even know that, because the people that I went to, they didn't tell me anything about the next day. It was like they actually didn't tell you. It's kind of like discovering it while I was going through it. The next day, like, I thought it didn't work. I was like, guys,
Mm.
this is the worst I've ever felt in my life. It did not work. I'm like one of the statistics that it's actually fucked me up more, because I'm fucked now. Because, like, I came in here like fucked, but now I'm like 3 times more fucked. And the stuff's worn off, and I'm feeling like the worst I've ever felt in my life. And they were like, no, 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 it's still working with you, even though you're not hallucinating and
Yeah, yeah.
going through the whole experience. I lay there that whole day, like, still, I was totally conscious, like the stuff, I felt like the stuff worn out, and I just cried the whole entire day. And then the next day, when I like the next day, then I woke up, and it was like the best I'd ever felt in my life, like, hands down. Like, I can't tell you how good I felt. It was like, oh my gosh, this is like so amazing. And also because what I went through was so intense. Like, and I mean, we did a podcast about this. If anybody wants to listen to it, it's a few episodes back. But and I talk about my whole experience. But like, the whole time while I was in there, I was just like, I'm never doing this again. This is the craziest thing I've ever done. I hate it. Well, it was like I took the stuff, and like half it took about half an hour to come up into the space or whatever it was. And as I came into that, I was like, I hate this. I wanted to stop immediately. And it went on for 30 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't understand, because there was a lady next to me that had done it before, and she was doing it the second time. And I was just like, well, I'm like lying there, like, out of it and going through this whole thing. I was just like, I don't understand why she's doing this again. I can't understand why I'm doing this. This is so horrible. This is so shit. And then the next day, I was also just crying the whole day, and I was also like in tears, because I was thinking, why do we have to go through so much pain to heal? Because I couldn't understand. I was like, this thing is so fucking crazy. Like, I can't, like, we are so fucked as humans, but we still have to put ourselves through this to try and heal. And I just didn't understand why just as human beings, why we have to go through this life and so much suffering. Like, what is
Yeah.
the fucking point? And I mean, I felt like that the whole way until that point, but that just accelerated, and I just couldn't. I just was like, I'm done. I don't understand it. Why do we have to suffer so much as humans? But then the next day, it was like the most blissful, most amazing time. Like, I can't even tell you how amazing. And that went on for 2 weeks, and then it slowly kind of sizzled down after a month, and I think it's been about 3 months later, and I feel like I feel like I'm like fucking like normal. I mean, not like normal, like in a way, like it's like that whole honeymoon thing's worn off, and I just feel like, actually, did actually anything really happen? I don't know. I mean, like, I was in addiction 10 years ago, and I stopped that, and I've been sober and clean for ten years now. So I didn't do it for that, but I did it for depression and a whole lot of and OCD and stuff like that. And like,
I,
I
I,
mean,
I mean, how is your OCD and depression at the moment?
you know what's so crazy is that I was going through like a heavy, heavy, depressing time. Like, Ask Lee, we spoke about it on the show, like, for many like episodes and stuff. I mean, they're not like we spoke. It would just come up now and then, like a very jaded and angry person. And then, but it was funny, because I was seeing, I went to an astrologer, and an astrologer said to me, he said to me, "You're going through this." Okay, he said a lot of stuff, and like 60% of it was bullshit. So I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
astrology is a load of bullshit. Like, that's what I thought. But he did say to me, he's like, "You're going through this really intense like period, like it's hectic, but you're gonna come out of it in February. Like, in your charts, February you're out. You're done. You're going to be in the new cycle. You're going to be happy. Your depression, the dark days are over. So I did this thing in December, and yeah, I did feel great through March and February. But then, like everything started in my life happening. I got this new job, like a lot of synchronicity started happening. Like other things that I wanted in my life were moving. Like I started feeling positive, and then I can't think of like, is it the Ibogaine? Is it am I coming out of the cycle that I was going to come out of anyway?
Well,
Like I don't know,
I
you
mean,
know.
this is quite interesting. I mean, there's a guy called Dr. James Davis who wrote an amazing book called Cracked: How Modern Psychiatry Fails Us. And he also wrote a book called The Importance of Suffering. And in that book, he talks about depression and anxiety, and he talks about it in a very specific way. And, to paraphrase him, he says, depression makes you unfit for your existing life. It makes you unfit for your friends. It makes you unfit for work. It makes you unfit for this, that, and everything else. The problem within kind of the Western medical paradigm is that when people arrive to that space, we kind of medicate it. We try to deal with it in the moment. And now James Davis is saying, well, there's a profound importance in this suffering. It makes you unfit for your existing life in order to clear the ground for something new to come in. And so what we're talking about is really it's about liminality. The old world is no longer serving you, and the new world is yet to be realized. And so for a while, William, you were in that kind of in-between space, in that liminal space, neither belonging in the old world, neither belonging in the new world. And that is deeply and profoundly uncomfortable. But it is a necessary process for growth to become who you're supposed to be. So I kind of see that. And in many ways, I think maybe the Ibogaine was the very thing that allowed you to enter that space of liminality in order to kind of complete that journey. And now you find yourself in a much better place. And also, I think without the Ibogaine, the chances of you throwing in the towel or giving up or using again would have been markedly higher. So when we talk about Ibogaine at its purest, Ibogaine is never, ever, ever going to heal anybody. What it does is help people heal themselves. It's a threshold medicine. It isn't, you wake it and you take it and you wake up as George Clooney or the Second Coming or the Dalai Lama. No, you wake up as William Collinson with all of your relationship problems, with your work problems, etc., etc. But what Ibogaine does allow you to do is perhaps accept the realities of life in a slightly different way, which can help you propel forward. And so often we find that, post Ibogaine, the feelings can be, after the first couple of weeks, they can be very, very subtle and very, very, very nuanced. But over time, when you look at it, your behaviors and your reactions and how you process life are markedly different. And I think that's maybe what you've just gone through. You've gone through that liminal stage and you're entering your new world. And it's a world that you have authorship and ownership of.
Yes, well, and it's actually now it's so funny because I've been questioning it like so much, especially this last month. Like, okay, I felt so good these last 2 months, but like now it's worn off. I feel like I'm normal, like how I was, sort of. And also, just to put this on the record as well for people listening, is that going through that hell, and then the 2 days after that, the amazing feeling I felt, I was like, wow, I'll actually go through that hell again. Like I'll do it as many times as I'll actually do it every month just to feel like this. Even though in that state I was like, I'm never doing it ever again. But then now, so like this month, I feel like I'm back to normal. It's all worn off. Did it actually even work? So I'm like, in the stage of like what do you call it? Analyzing it and like and thinking it didn't work. But then
Mm-hmm.
someone like you asked me, like, but how's your life? And I actually think, wait a second, my life's actually fucking amazing. I'm feeling great. I'm like, yesterday I've been like, usually I'm always like angry at God and going like, what the fuck? Why am I like this? Like, well, the universe, why is it cursing me? Fuck it, man. Like, but actually yesterday I was actually thanking like the first time I'm praying, like, and it's funny because I don't actually notice this until you ask me this because I'm actually like skeptical now and thinking like it didn't actually work. But then you have to put it into perspective and ask me like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, actually. I'm thinking it didn't work. I feel like I'm depressed again, but I'm not because I'm actually, yesterday I was praying, like, thank you, God, I've got this amazing job. I'm like, I feel great. Like everything's going well in my life. But then there is the certain things that like I do get like skeptical about is that like after the Ibogaine session or in it, I saw my daughter's mother in such a huge positive light because like me and her do not get on. It's like it's war. And I saw her for the first time, like, oh my God, this woman is so amazing. I'm so happy that she's my daughter's mother. Like she's the most honest person I've ever met. She's the
Hmm.
most profoundly like moral person I've ever met. She's always doing the right thing. She's someone I want to aspire to be. And I felt like that for 2 months. And then this month I'm just like, oh my fuck, I just don't want to even talk to her. I don't want to see her. I don't like
Yeah, so
that.
the thing, William, is what part of you is responding to her at the moment? And in my opinion, it wouldn't be the grown up 40 something William Collinson. Actually, what it is that inner traumatized child within you, and it's sending up signals at the moment, and it's creating negativity and it's creating anxiety because at some level you are not looking after that part of the psyche properly. And that is what Ibogaine asks us to do. It asks us to look after the angry, irritable, immature part of us, the part of us that had learned to survive in childhood. So let's put it this way: young Pueblo puts it beautifully when he talks about addiction. He says, and again I have to paraphrase because I'm not that bright. The only thing I've ever been addicted to is filling the void I feel in my chest with anything other than self-compassion. Um, so when we're young and we have to adapt to the environments we're in, often what we have to do is deny the frightened, vulnerable, sensitive, sad part of us in order to survive the environment we're in. And that creates the emptiness and that creates the loss. And it's that part of us that as we get older, it's saying, well, you're not seeing me, and you're not hearing me, and you're not acknowledging me, and you're not respecting me. Well, so fuck you. I'll get my nourishment from elsewhere. And I'm going to send up signals. I'm going to send up depression. I'm going to send up anxiety. I'm going to send up accusation and all sorts of things in order for you to perhaps see that lost part. Does that make sense to you? So that
Yeah.
the lost part of you used as a language of negativity is not going to go, oh, William, can you look after me? I'm not, you haven't looked after me. Can you love me, please? It's going to go, it was created out of anger and it was created out of irritability. So it's going to talk to you that way. So, what I'm trying to get at the moment is that the part of you that is perhaps reacting to your wife is not the 40-year-old William. It's the traumatized, needy, frightened, sad 7 or 8 or 9-year-old within you.
Yeah. No, I
And
mean,
when those kind of emotions come up, actually what it is an opportunity for you to go around and say, well, how am I not looking after that part of me
mm,
because it's being triggered? Does that make
yeah.
sense to you?
No, no, sure. It's funny because I do actually think of that. I mean, there's also like a lot of other situations in my life right now where there are people that have been treating me, and maybe this is also the wisdom that's come from the Ibogaine. I feel the pain like someone like it hurts me, but then I'm like, I do realize I'm like, wait a second, but that's actually their stuff. They like going through something, and that's just who they are, and they're acting like it. But I'm reacting to that, and it's not actually me, it's them. I do realize that, but then I'm
So
always like,
that's super interesting for me because this means that you've gone from a place where you used to be entirely reactive and triggered to other people, which means you were non-accepting of them. And now you've
Yeah.
done Ibogaine, you're kind of a little bit more accepting of who they are. So you're more expansive in your thinking and more expansive in how you respond to people. The reality is that Ibogaine doesn't create a world where these things don't occur. It just creates a world where you can respond very, very, very differently to the things that used to trigger you.
Yeah. So the thing
And so,
is, yeah, I know, I totally get it, and I noticed that. Like I totally like it. Like I promise you, like
mm,
so many things in my situation in my life that it'll something will upset me, and I know it's me, and I totally get it. I'm like, it's them.
mhm.
That's how they are. That's how they. It's whatever's going on in their past, or that whatever happened to them. That's how they. And I. But then I sit there and I go, but why am I still? I know it's them and it's not me. But why am I still getting upset? And what is it? And I sit there and I go like, what is it? Why am I feeling like this? What is it? And I can never find the fucking, I can never get to what it is. And people go, sit with the feeling and it, like, and you got to meditate on it and you'll find out where it's coming from or whatever. But I never get there. And sometimes I feel like, geez, maybe I have some unfinished business with the Ibogaine. I actually felt like when I came out, I thought, okay, I went this far, I saw this, I dealt with that. Well, not dealt with it, but I saw certain things, but like I really feel I need another go. And I don't know,
Yeah, no,
but
I
then it's my
mean,
addict brain. I'm like, no, that's addict brain. That's addict thinking. That's
no, I don't agree with that. I think, look, a lot of people might get it first time and a lot of people might get it second time. I mean, the reality is, William, I think that, when you went in for your previous Ibogaine, and I'm not entirely sure what what you went through, but was there any preparation? Was there any full integration? Were you set up in the right way? Were you aware of that part of your psyche that runs your addiction? And rather than castigating that part of your psyche, that inner traumatized child, is actually the secret to good Ibogaine work is to build a relationship with the part of you that's in pain, rather than deny it, criticize it, castigate it, or eventually medicate it.
mm,
So it's actually about having compassion for the part of you that's in pain and will get angry and get upset. And that's where the game changing starts to occur, is when we can be the curious observer of the parts of us which are in pain. And we have to learn to parent ourselves. Does that make sense to you? So when the signals come, I'll give you an example. I call my inner traumatized child, I call him Bob. And I actually, as you can see, I vape a bit. So, this is my last true habit. And I went into a vape shop a couple of weeks ago and I paid for a vape and I gave the woman the money and I put my hand out like that to receive the money and her hand went into the till. She took the money out, and just as she was about to drop it in my hand, I went, "Thank you very much." And she slammed the change down on the table next to my hand. And as the words "thank you very much" tumbled out of my mouth, she turned her back away and walked on me.
jeez,
And I felt,
what an animal.
bloody hell. Yeah, what a bitch, and all of that kind of, my childhood trauma and your childhood trauma and everybody else's, everybody who comes to me, the basic premise behind their trauma and their addiction is sometime during their formative years, they weren't seen, they weren't heard, they weren't acknowledged, and they weren't respected. And when you
Mm,
live in an environment like that, you have to adapt your behaviors to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. And those adaptations are invariably inauthentic. So we don't know who we are eventually. We become the roles we're playing. But let's go back. So Bob's my traumatized inner child, and he comes up because this lady has rejected me in that moment. Now, 10
mm,
or 12 years ago, I would have called her a fucking cunt. I'm never coming in this fucking shop again. How dare you talk to me like that? I would have lost it.
Yeah,
And,
sure.
I'd probably tried to slam the door on the way out, caught the
Mm,
back of my ankle, tumbled out into the road. Some poor boy is walking his dog, looks at me, what the fuck are you looking at? And then I'm phoning up my dealer and I'm
mm,
going on a 3-day crack binge
yeah,
because somebody hasn't responded to me in the way that I see fit. And it's triggered that part of me in pain. Okay. That's how I would have behaved 10 or 12 years ago.
yeah.
What happened was she slammed the change down, turned her back on me, and I said the word, as I said the words, thank you very much. And I felt instantly that rejection, not feeling good enough. It felt like a knife had been put into my heart and slashed around. My response in that moment is, whoa, I feel angry. Whoa, my inner traumatized child has been triggered.
Mm,
How can I look after that part of me in the moment? What do I need to do to parent that part of me rather than go out on a crack binge? And so I chose to go for a cup of coffee, got a bit of lemon drizzle cake, sat down for 20 minutes and essentially parented the part of me in pain. I didn't deny it. I didn't castigate it. I didn't medicate it. I actually compassionately responded to the part of me that was suffering. So
mm,
I learned to parent myself. And I think this is what Ibogaine does. It doesn't take away suffering. What it does is gives you the tools to be able to parent yourself correctly. Because the reality is that most of us who end up in addiction or end up in pain in some sort of way, it's because we weren't seen and we weren't heard and we weren't acknowledged when we were younger. We weren't parented either by our own parents or by the institutions around us, i.e., school or religion or whatever. We had
yeah.
expectation placed on us to behave in a particular way. And when we have that type of expectation placed on us, often we have to deny ourselves in order to fulfill the obligations of culture and society and family. They're kind of saying to you, William, we don't like you the way you are. We want you to be this.
It's like every
Does that,
girlfriend I've
does,
ever
does that
had.
fit?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
every girlfriend I've ever had. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and then look, you adapt and you behave in the way that they're expecting you to.
Mm,
You deny your own feelings, you deny your own drives in many ways, and that feels incredibly inauthentic. At the end of the day, you know, I always feel that addiction can be defined in this simple statement. It is self-medicating against a profound sense of inauthenticity.
mm,
The addiction is not the problem. The inauthenticity is the problem. The addiction is a very, very cack-handed um, effort at trying to medicate that inauthenticity, to try and deal with it. I mean, I always call this idea that, if you've got a guy in the special forces and they've joined the military, you've got an addict, they've got an awful lot in common, a tremendous amount in common. Why did the soldier um, sign on a dotted outline at 17 or 18 and join the military? And it's not because of naturalism and patriotism and community. More often than not, they're running away from the world that they were in before. When an
mm,
addict sticks a needle in his arm, what's he trying to do? He's trying to run away from the world that he's in.
mm.
So it's the fire of change, it's the fire of transformation, it's the right fire, the fire of Eros. It just happens to be burning in the wrong hearth.
Yeah.
Ibogaine perhaps gives you the opportunity to rebuild that hearth so it can burn properly.
Yeah, because like even after the Ibogaine, I mean, all of my what do you call it in addiction, like at AA, that we used to say, like you have your addiction, but now you've given up the alcohol. Now your addiction will branch out into all these small little things like sugar, coffee, sex, um, uh, social media, like post, what do they call it? Whatever the other addictions it just goes to. So, and that's what like after Ibogaine, I thought like because all the things I've seen online, everything, I thought it was okay, cool. I'm gonna get rid of everything. I'm gonna get off the social
Mm-hmm.
media, the coffee done, biting my nails finished. Oh, yeah, sorry, that did happen. The nails biting, I stopped biting my nails, but that was a more of a con. So, but then I came out. I'm drinking coffee more than, I mean, I'm drinking like sometimes 5 cups of coffee a day, 6 cups of coffee. I mean, like the coffee, like, and I know, like, I know when I feel uncomfortable, like I'm like, because I'm trying to escape all the time, and I know it, and I'm like, geez, what are you trying to run from? What do you like? Yesterday, I just wanted to get out of the house and go just walk around a shopping mall for it because there's nothing to do in here in Joburg. I'm in Joburg at the moment. And it's like a process addiction. So I've like, and it didn't cure any of those. The nail biting. Okay, the two good things that I did notice was that I started making my bed. Like I've never made my
Yeah,
bed ever. For since boarding school when I was like through 12 to 18. So, and
yeah.
now I'm making my bed every day. Actually, I can't stand it if I don't make my bed. So that was a weird thing that happened. And I thought, okay, well, let's see how long this lasts for. Like, like I was like, okay, well, this is interesting, but let's check how long this lasts for. It's 3 months later, I'm still making
So,
my bed, made my bed.
so,
And it was my
so,
fingernails. So like the fingernails, I stopped biting my fingernails, which I've been for years, been wanting to stop biting my fingernails. Like I've been like so, and I tried my hardest. And then this time, it wasn't like I just took the Ibogaine and I woke up the next day and I'm like, oh fuck, I've stopped biting my nails. It was like I was like, okay, now I've done the Ibogaine, so now I'm gonna try stop biting my nails. And maybe it'll help. And it worked. I didn't stop, but maybe it was like a
yeah.
placebo or like I had a bit of a
No, no.
stronger.
I think that's a conscious attachment to doing the right thing. And for me, I think addiction is often run by, it's run by this idea of non-acceptance. You're non-accepting of yourself. You're non-accepting of the world around you. Um, and with that non-acceptance, we become, we press the fuck it buttons and we become unconscious. And so, addiction is run by this kind of unconscious desire to connect to something. We just do it. We just go out there. We don't really think about it. Whereas when we get out of addiction, and especially when we've taken Ibogaine, it's often we get to a place of acceptance. You were talking about you accepting your girlfriend to begin with, and when you're being accepting, you're also being conscious, and then you can consciously attach to kind of looking after yourself. I mean, there's something I talk about, which is the minutiae of healing, the minutiae of recovery. I am not a believer in the grand gestures. I think they're great, but the grand gestures of, holotropic breathing and yoga and meditation and going down to the gym every day, more often than not, that is somebody taking up the role of a spiritual leviathan. They've gone up into the dressing up box and they're looking for external validation. Look at what
Mm,
great recovery I'm in. I'm doing
mm,
this and I'm doing that.
yeah.
And that's a misnomer. That's a false thing. It's being inauthentic once again. It's going to the dressing up once again. What we want to do is connect to our real selves, not to the self that we perceive the rest of the world will love us for.
Mm,
Um, and so for me, the most powerful thing you can do in order to look after yourself and look after the inner traumatized child, look after that part of your psyche that is what I call the minutiae. And it's really as simple as putting honey in your tea and making your bed in the morning and hitting 50 golf balls at the golf range and going for a walk in nature, having your friends over for dinner and breaking bread with them. Um, you know, actually kind of embracing life in the really, really, because that's where the true healing is. Because if you could imagine that the part of you that is in pain is 7 or 8, would you send a 7 or 8 year old to the gym for 2 hours a day? No, you wouldn't. Would you send a 7 or 8 year old? Would you make them do holotropic breathing every day? No, you fucking wouldn't. Would you make a seven
sure.
or 8 year old do meditation on a daily basis?
No,
No,
just
you
go have
wouldn't.
fun. Just
They
fucking go have
they
fun.
are absolutely great for the 45-year-old William Collinson or whatever age you are.
Mm,
Those kind of yoga meditation. But we must remember to look after the traumatized part of us. And the traumatized part of us is invariably a very young, frightened child who needs parenting and needs to be loved and needs to be cared for. So the good parent would clean their bedroom or help them clean their bedroom. The good parent would take them down to the golf range. The good parent will take them out walking. The good parent will allow them to play and connect to nature. So this is where the real recovery, the glue that holds your healing together, is in the minutiae, making your bed and things like that. So if you do those and you're consciously attached to looking after the inner traumatized part of your psyche, consciously attached to parenting that part of you, then life becomes amazing. And if you find yourself getting angry and you find yourself getting irritable and you find yourself, it's because you're not looking after that part of you. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I think this is where people get it really wrong, that, they feel that they have to be some type of spiritual leviathan on the other side. Ibogaine invites you to walk out of fear and to start embracing life in the most simple and natural ways you can. So for me, when people go and do Ibogaine, a deep and profound reconnection to nature and play is where the healing really starts. Because that's what the traumatized inner child would want, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But so tell us about. Sorry, I feel like Lee. It's like Lee hasn't said one word here, and it feels like I'm getting like a free therapy
Oh, Lee's
session
in
here.
there. I didn't even know Lee was part of this.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm waiting for William to finish his story.
But
Don't
anyway,
want to butt
sorry,
in there.
your story. So you went in for addiction,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you
Yeah.
healed, did you come out healed?
Yeah, I mean,
From the addiction.
no, I mean, I'm not healed now. I'm certainly healed from addiction, but
Well, it helped you get off the stuff. Did that help you get off whatever you're on? Can you talk about that?
completely.
Like what happened? You were like you were using it every day, and then you went in, and then the next day you 100% fine. Well, not
Pretty
using. I mean,
much. I
not
mean,
a.
I had to be incredibly conscious in the way that I took Ibogaine. So when I first did it, and I did my treatment with an amazing guy called Paul Featherstone, and Paul's been kind of retired for many, many years. He's coming back out of it now. And, before I was going in and working with the Ibogaine, I wasn't really turning up. I was lying. I was missing appointments, all sorts of things. And 24 hours before my Ibogaine treatment, Paul phones me up and says, you know what? I don't feel comfortable about giving you Ibogaine. I don't think you're putting any intentionality or respect or reverence or integrity or curiosity into this process. I'm not ready to give you Ibogaine. And I lost it, a mobile phone thrown against the wall, a couple of punches on the door of the room, and I had a kind of meltdown, which you'd expect an 8-year-old boy to have. And I did a lot of crying, and I was really upset, and my kind of narrative was coming out. How dare he string me along like this, and how dare he deny me treatment, etc., etc. But then I eventually reached this point where I kind of said to myself, this guy doesn't want to work with me. Why doesn't he want to work with me? What am I not bringing to this equation? And that was a big turning point for me, because that was the point where, I decided to take some responsibility, because I was very irresponsible in how I attached to the Ibogaine. I just saw it as a panacea, a magic bullet, maybe something to try. Fuck it. Might as well do it. If it will get a lot of people off my back in many ways if I'm going to do Ibogaine. Anyway, so I was due to fly out to Sweden to do my aftercare from the Ibogaine experience. So I flew out anyway, and I stayed in the forest in Sweden. I couldn't get hold of any coke or crack. And I started to just be with myself, not chasing something to fill the void. And I did a bit of work, and I phoned up Paul, and I said, "Look, this is what I've done over." And he said, "Yeah, great." He said, "I think you've put enough respect and reverence and intentionality and curiosity into this process that I am willing now to work with you." And I flew over to UK. I took the Ibogaine, and then I flew back out to Sweden for 3 months. And I really, really cared for myself. I went out every day. I played golf. I got back into my body. I didn't go back to London because I was very, very fearful of bumping into somebody that I owed money to, or bumping into a dealer or something like that. I didn't want to risk that. I didn't want to return to an environment where I started using again. I was too fearful of that. So I went and looked after myself. And then when I came back to London, I'd actually been able to pick up the tools to be able to navigate that world effectively without using, because what I'd learned to do in that period was parent myself. I would have never, ever been able to parent myself in the way that I did unless Ibogaine was in the picture. And that's been the whole kind of premise behind the protocol that I use, is that, turning up and taking Ibogaine without putting respect, reverence, intentionality, integrity, and curiosity into the process, it invariably won't work for you that well. And I found over the years that when I'm working with clients in the pre-treatment kind of environment, the clients who turn up, the clients who put respect and reverence, the clients who really show up to their treatment and really earn their spot on the bed, that is where the Ibogaine meets you. And then I see with other clients who don't give a shit, they just want to take the medicine, they're expecting a cure, they're expecting us to cure them, they're not putting any reverence or any respect into the process. These are the clients who really, really, really struggle with the Ibogaine, because the Ibogaine meets you where you're at. And so that's not anyone's problem. I mean, look, there's a massive problem in the Ibogaine industry at the moment, that many Ibogaine, you could phone up an Ibogaine provider and say, well, look, I'm an alcoholic, or I'm taking stimulants, and I'm thinking of doing Ibogaine. Well, great. Why don't you fly down on Monday? We'll dose you on Tuesday, and you can fuck off on Friday.
It's even worse. I'll tell you a story here. Yeah.
It's actually unprofessional. It's awful. They're not holding the environment properly. People are not coming in with respect and reverence for this medicine. Ibogaine will always meet you where you meet it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I just spoke to a lady recently because I've been trying to get people for this documentary I'm making on Ibogaine now. And this lady, she's done it 3 times, but she's still an alcoholic. And and then, because the thing is, I've been meeting so many people, I interview them, and it's the most mind-blowing story you've ever heard. I mean, Jesus, the guy I interviewed like a few weeks ago, I'm going to put it on YouTube actually, because I just feel it needs to be, the whole world needs to see it. That it was so profound, what his experience. It was like mind-blowing. I mean, he was talking, he was weeping while he's telling his story. I'm fucking weeping while he's telling his story. We just behind the camera. I mean, the people that see me. And then I interviewed this other lady, and she's like, yeah, she's done it 3 times. She wanted to even open up an Ibogaine clinic because she sees how amazing it is, but she's still actively an alcoholic. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's so weird, man. Like, you've done it 3 times, you even want to open a clinic, but you fucking,
But she still hasn't done the work. She still hasn't accepted those parts of her that are in pain. She still hasn't
but
parented those parts of hers that are in pain.
yeah,
And what she's doing is going to the dressing up box and playing the role of the spiritual Leviathan by opening up a
yeah.
clinic.
But I mean,
Jeffrey Camlet.
sorry,
Jeffrey
I just want to
Camlet.
just fix that. She isn't like actively like alcoholic, but she's still drinking like every now and then. Like she's not like, she just still has a problem with alcohol that she says she's battling with. So she's not like drinking all day and every day, but she still says that she can't stop drinking.
Well, that's addiction. You know, some
Yeah.
people can drink every day. Some people, you know, I know people in terrible, terrible addiction who, you know, they don't drink for 3 weeks and then they go on an absolute blinder for 3 to 4 days, go into blackout, and then they turn up to work and they do 3 weeks again without. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, that yeah, there are different ways of attaching to your addiction. Yeah, I mean, you know, it sounds like Jeffrey Camlett, who's, you know, I'll be very, very honest. It's not somebody I particularly respect and admire through his own personal life, but he did come out with this comment that, you know, what happens when you get a narcissistic sociopathic heroin addict takes Ibogaine? What happens after that? They
Yeah.
open a clinic.
Yeah. It's like
They
this.
open a clinic. And, you know, there are a lot of bad actors in the world of Ibogaine at the moment. There are a lot of people who like to commodify people's pain for financial gain. There's a lot of people who will take people on a Monday, dose them on a Tuesday, tell them to fuck up on a Friday, and feel that they have served that client.
Mm.
And it's not. It's disrespectful to them. It's disrespectful to the clients. It's disrespectful to the medicine. We have a moral duty to hold this incredible medicine in the right space. Many people believe it is the tree of knowledge from the parable of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
That is
Well, I mean,
true.
I mean, it was my experience. I mean, I saw so many African people in my thing. I was like wondering, why am I seeing African people? It was just like,
Mm.
it was everywhere. Like, and it was, and even this human being, like this African guy would show up, and he would be like my teacher, and he would tell me stuff, or show, or like not tell me stuff. I would see stuff, and then when I like got something, the image would light up, and then he would appear, and he would just wink at me, and he would be like, yeah, and then he would just like collapse into like little blocks.
Yeah. I mean, look, it doesn't matter whether you're from the Russian steppes or from Norway or from South Africa or from South America. That theme comes up again and again
And
and
it's funny because the
again.
African guy, you know, like, and I'm like, this
Yeah,
plant's from
yeah.
Africa.
Look,
It's like from
I'm
Africa. That's, and I'm thinking that's the only reason why I'm seeing it. Like, or maybe it's my
look, I'm
subconscious saying like I know it's from Africa, so that's why I'm seeing. Like, but then the guy next to me, he when we spoke about it later and sharing, he's like, no, he also saw this African dude teaching him these things, and I'm like, okay,
I'll
so
tell you,
it must be Adam.
my first ever experience with Ibogaine is, you know, I saw this tiny little plant and it started to grow, and then it kind of became fractal and it grew and grew, and then I had a jungle in front of me. This is my first ever thing. You know, I'm a guy from, I've got Northern European heritage. I've got nothing to do with Africa. I'd never even been into Africa at that time. And this jungle comes up in front of me, and then this head sticks out of the jungle, and it's a silverback gorilla. And a silverback gorilla glides to me like that and gets eye to eye with me. And I look in its eye and I can see all the beauty and the calmness. And it suddenly puts me into a place where I feel safe, oddly enough. And then this silverback gorilla glides back into the jungle. And as it glides back, it becomes a pygmy tribesman.
Oh wow.
And that was kind of like the medicine saying to me, yeah, this is big work. It's unusual work, but you're safe. Here's something that's really, really kind of frightening. But when it comes to me, I can see all the love and the beauty and the wisdom in the world. And then as it comes back into the jungle, it becomes pygmy tribesman.
Wow.
And in that moment, in my Ibogaine experience, I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to be okay here. I'm going to be safe.
Yeah.
With this, my first introduction.
So how many?
Um,
Did you do it once, or how many times did you do it? Or like, did you do it
I've
once
done
and
it. I've done it 4 or 5 times, and I'm about to go and do it again in June or July.
okay, and your addiction, you stopped using after that first one, or did you
Yeah,
use it?
I stopped using coke and crack. Um, you know, I mean, I'm not self-medicating anymore in order to make sense of my life. I'm not burning the right fire in the wrong hearth. I'm
Hmm.
now burning that fire of change and transformation in the right hearth. And
Yeah.
at some level, I'm willing to go back and do it again in June and July. I'm getting to my mid-50s. My children are growing up. My father just died. My mother's very poorly. Um, I need to grow some more. I need to understand some more. So there's a willingness to go back and talk with the medicine in order to be able to expand who I am as a human.
Yeah. So sorry, I mean, this a conversation jumps all over the place because of my ADD, but we were talking about the irresponsibility of Ibogaine treatment centers. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I also wanted to put another thing about this whole spiritual bloody fad, or what do you call it, like ego, like you were talking about how people dress up and they go and they do their meditation and they holotropic breathing because it's like an ego. Like, I mean, even Jesus in the first page of the Bible, he says you must go meditate in the cupboard, not meditate, pray in the cupboard, and you must, don't pray on the street corner. But all of us spiritual people, because it's such a trendy thing now, it's like, oh yeah, I meditate for an hour every day, and I take mushrooms, and I mean. The thing is, I did a whole documentary on mushrooms, and those guys, like, they are the most biggest and what's it, evangelists of the stuff, but like some of them, their lives aren't very good, and I'm like, geez, dude, you're taking this stuff like so much, and it doesn't seem like it's working because like the way you say that this stuff is like so fucking amazing. I don't know if it's working, and it's like a badge. It's like these guys wear these like badges, like I've done a hero trip 8 times. Look at
Yeah,
me.
I mean,
Or like I've done
look,
ayahuasca like 20 times. Look how fucking amazing I am. But it's like, dude, or like there's a lady that I know, she's done ayahuasca so many times. And I'm like, so what did it do for you? She can't even tell me what it did for her. She just tells me the experience, what happened. Like, and it's like, okay, how's your life afterwards? It doesn't seem like it's done anything for her. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, I mean, I see that a lot. I see that people, they, end up taking plant medicines to try and transcend their human experience. And the reality is that if you do plant medicines properly, it's to embrace your human experience, not to transcend it. And so you've got to go in with the right headspace. And yeah, I see a lot of people who go and do Ibogaine or ayahuasca, and suddenly they're wearing white linen, they've got dreadlocks, and they're spewing forth about, what an amazing human being they are as a result of it. And
mm,
it's all a show and it's all an act. And they're
mm,
looking for external validation through this new role.
mm,
Role playing is something that, I've said this, and I think I said it earlier in the podcast, that Ibogaine allows you to become the person you were supposed to be.
yeah,
Okay. It's not about going to for example, let's put it this way. When I was a kid, and I really struggled with depression and bullying at school, and I was misunderstood, and I was growing up in the 70s with ADHD. I was getting shouted at, I was getting screamed at, I was getting criticized on a daily basis. Yeah. So by the time I'm 17, I just feel so shit about myself. I feel so disempowered. I feel metaphorically castrated by the institutions around me, by my education, by my parents not understanding what's going on for me, because nobody knew what ADHD was in the 70s or 80s. Yeah.
mm,
So at 17, I'm thinking to myself, I'm weak, I'm pathetic, I'm no good, I'm a loser, I'll never amount to anything. Oh, if I join the French Foreign Legion, maybe I could turn myself into the kind of guy I want to be, which is strong and powerful and
mm,
assertive. And so I joined the French Foreign Legion in order to play a role, in order to find myself.
mm,
And then at the age of 25, I'm still feeling shit and I'm still feeling lost and I still don't feel good enough, and oh, if I become a picture editor at a major newspaper, then I got my finger on the pulse, and all the girls will find me attractive because I'm a newspaper media guy. So I
mm,
play another role, and that doesn't work. And then I go and do um, carpentry to film sets because I think, well, I'm working in the movie industry and everybody will think I'm amazing and I'm cool and I'm working
mm,
with my hair. So I'm going role after role after role after role in order to try and define who I am.
mm.
I was very lucky, but when I came to Ibogaine, at that stage, I'd gone to the dressing up box to find another role, and the dressing box was empty, and it was almost a sense of relief insofar as I don't have to go to the dressing up box anymore to try and find out who I am. I've just got to look inside myself and find out who I really am underneath all of these roles and all of these conditioning I'm playing. Ask your average special forces guy, as I've said before, why did they join the military? It's not for nationalism, it's not for patriotism, it's because they are running away and they are trying to define themselves through the role that they are playing. Now, you
Yeah.
get this with people taking Ibogaine and plant medicines. They haven't done the fucking work, and they've gone to the dressing up box and they're playing a role yet again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the people who've done Ibogaine and they're messy and they're human and they're imperfect and they embrace that, because that is the most spiritual path to take,
Yeah.
is to embrace yourself for
To
who you are.
accept yourself, yeah, completely.
Yeah, and it comes back to that acceptance, non-acceptance thing. Um, and yeah, I always I say this, William, and it's quite good. I say this to most clients in session, the perfect human being is imperfect. They're crazy, they're chaotic, they're all over the place. And thank God we're like that, because that's where our creativity and our wisdom and our drive and our humor kind of originates from. The imperfect human being is the one who chases perfection, because perfection is a cultural, societal, familial, educational paradigm of control. William Collinson, we will only love you if you behave like this. That's your childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's like chasing a crock of shit at a never moving rainbow.
Yeah.
This idea of who you should be and what's the perfect William Collinson. Embrace your chaos, embrace who you are at a very human level, embrace your anger, embrace your irritability, embrace the whole shebang, because that's the gift.
Yeah.
Don't pretend you're something you're not in order to fit in to cultural, societal, and familial expectation, because then you will feel inauthentic. And if you feel inauthentic, you might have to reach out for something to take the pain away.
Yeah. Exactly. And also the thing is, when you do fuck up, you mustn't like be so hard on yourself, because what I've been realizing is like, I'm like, okay, well, this is a learning opportunity. Like I'll stop like giving myself a hard time. I have to see like, okay, well, I did this and it fucked up and I'm feeling shit about it and whatever, but now I got to learn. Okay, I got to be like, thank you. I had the opportunity to have that experience so that I could learn and stop beating myself up about it and saying like, you're such an idiot, such an asshole. And I wish I thought that like that earlier, because I'd probably be the wisest person on the planet now, because I did a lot of stupid things that I'm like, fuck, if I just thought of that every single time, look at me, I'm beating myself up again about it. But yeah, but that's another
So
thing I kind of like.
this is where it gets interesting, because the first thing I would ask you is, what part of you responded in that way and got angry and behaved that way or used, and it will be the traumatized part of your psyche. Now, you can choose to get angry with that part of your psyche, or deny it, or medicate it. And in doing so, you're throwing fuel onto the fire. You're making that part even more in pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the point is to have a compassionate relationship with the part of you that's in pain, to be available for it, to see it. I'm going to read you something, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me look for it. I call this, I mean, there are two things I'd like to read you, which are both things I've written, but I'd like to read what I call Bob to begin with. Okay.
Yes.
Let me look that up. Here we go. It's quite good having two phones, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a
Okay,
brainer.
so when Bob gets loud, embodying the higher self, when I'm triggered, when fear tightens the chest, when confusion clouds the path, when old wounds flare, I have to be vigilant. Not in the way I once was, bracing against the world, but in a subtler, more compassionate manner. I have to be careful not to become Bob. Bob is the name I've given my inner traumatized child. And when I say not to become Bob, I don't mean to reject or silence or push him away. I mean to recognize when he is present and remember who I am in relationship to him. Because Bob, for all of his pain and unmet needs, is not equipped to lead my life. He was forged in survival, not in sovereignty. When I let him take the wheel, I react rather than respond. I shrink, I lash out, I dissociate or collapse. I become the fear rather than the container for it. And when that happens, I abandon myself all over again. The task then is to notice when Bob shows up and to resist the pull to embody him. Instead, I must call upon my higher self, the compassionate, grounded, witnessing presence that can hold Bob without merging with him. The parent I never had, the protector who doesn't need to fight, the guide who listens without being overwhelmed. In trauma-informed work, this is known as self-leadership. Richard Schwartz reminds us that healing occurs not by exiling our wounded parts, but by relating to them from the self, with calm, curiosity, clarity, and compassion. Thus, it's not about fixing Bob. It's about parenting him, attuning to him, letting him know, I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. I get your anger, I get your pain. And from this place, I can choose, I can breathe, I can remember that my current reality is not the original wound, even when it feels like it. The power lies not in suppressing Bob, but in not becoming him, because when I stay anchored in my higher self, I am no longer a frightened child lost in the dark. I am the adult who was returned with a torch, ready to bring warmth and light to the places that were once abandoned. This is the hero's journey, not to slay the inner child, but to reclaim him without regression, to love him without fusing with his fear, to walk forward with him gently, held gently by the hand, not stuffed in a backpack, left behind or given a map. And in doing so, I move from reaction to response, from fragmentation to integration. And I become not just the survivor, but the sovereign. The whole work of
Beautiful.
Ibogaine work is to learn how to parent yourself and
Yeah.
to not castigate and deny and demean the part of you that's in pain, because it was created out of being castigated, demeaned, and denied.
Mm. That's
We've got
beautifully
to
written.
we've got to cut ourselves some slack in order to heal.
Mm.
And we've got to accept that we are imperfect and we do get angry and we do get upset and we do have emotions, and we've got to embrace those emotions, and we've got to be able to hold those emotions maturely and properly rather than being run by them. When our inner traumatized child run the show, that's when we go into deep and profound addiction. When I'm arguing with my wife, it's not Anders who's arguing with my wife. It's invariably my inner traumatized child, Bob,
Mm.
arguing with my wife has permission to talk to me. She has permission to turn around and go, who the fuck am I talking to at the moment? Am I talking to Anders or am I talking to Bob? You go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, love. Yeah. That is spiritual work. That is how we move forward. It's
Yeah.
not about
So,
pretending that we are anything other than ourselves. When we can embrace ourselves fully, accept ourselves fully, accept our anger, accept our irritability, then we can heal. If we don't accept those emotions, what we're doing is turning our back on ourselves. And if we're turning our back on ourselves, how the fuck do you heal?
mm.
This is where Ibogaine comes in. It gives you the opportunity to have that expansive mindset and go, oh, this part of me that is reacting at the moment,
Mm.
this needs to run the show. Now I need to look after it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not, you don't look after it by going to the dressing up box and pretending to be a spiritual leviathan.
But I've actually noticed that a lot about exactly what you're saying. I've actually noticed that a lot since the Ibogaine thing. Like I have been so much more aware of like, okay, well, you're feeling like shit now because of that, this, that, or so.
Mm.
So I'm glad we had that talk because like, yeah, it's quite a profound kind of realization to have now because I mean it hasn't made me stop feeling shit because sometimes I mean like in certain situations it's like I actually but I'm able to be like, okay, well, why why are you feeling this? Like, okay, it's not you, it's him. So but anyway, sorry,
I
Lee,
think I can. I think I can help you with that as well, and I would really love to read this because I think that anybody in addiction or anybody who's lost or suffering from depression or profound sadness, um, they would really understand what I want to read now of who we were. Let me find that now.
what did you want to
There
say,
we go.
Lee?
Sounds like everybody suffers from multiple personality disorder. Because I mean, if what you're
I,
saying is, we have to deal with the inner child, and that which is, I think, most people on the planet.
mhm.
We all have some sort of multiple personality disorder to
Yeah.
some degree.
Well,
So
I think
whether it be
in order to fit into the environments we're growing up in, often we have to change who we are in order to get external validation and to be loved, and so we have to deny ourselves. And this is a perfect timing. You were interjecting there, Lee, actually leads me on to exactly what I want to read now, and I think this is massively, massively important. This particular thing called a remembrance is based on the 12 years of working with clients and my 25 years in addiction. And I think this kind of explains what's going on really well. You wouldn't mind if I read it, would
Yeah,
you?
please go ahead.
Okay, a remembrance of who we were before the world got its hands on us, before shame grew roots in our chest, before we learnt that being ourselves was somehow too much and never enough all at once. We were wild then, wide-eyed and whole, dreaming in colour, singing without knowing how to hide the sound. But slowly we were taught to dim, to fold ourselves into shapes that didn't fit, to wear masks heavy with expectation and tradition, and to call pain strength and silence grace. And so we disappeared bit by bit, trading freedom for approval, trading joy for the numb ache of belonging, until the ache became too loud. So we reached for the pills, the powder, the bottles, the blades, for anything that could hold us when no one else knew how to. And we did not know how to softly hold ourselves. They call it addiction and lack, but they didn't see the root. They didn't see the small child who learned that crying made others leave, who learned that truth was dangerous and softness a threat. We weren't trying to escape life, we were trying to survive it, trying to quiet the thoughts that scream too loud in the dark, trying to forget the people we became to please everyone but ourselves. And so we lost years to the fog, forgot our own names in the mirror. We learned how to function while falling apart. We learned how to smile while dying slowly inside. Yet still somehow a flicker, a spark, a whisper burning like an ember in the depths. This is not who you are. And so we begin the hardest thing. The turning inwards, the facing of shadows with compassion, the peeling back of pain with curiosity, layer by tender layer. Recovery is not clean, but still an embrace. It is bloody and beautiful and must be reverential. It is mourning who we could have been while fighting for who we still can be. It is relearning softness, relearning trust, reclaiming a body we tried to abandon, and forgiving a mind that only wanted peace. It is remembering who we were before the world got its hands on us, before we learned to hate ourselves for what was done to us, and before we made all of their pain our pain. We are unbecoming to become, not just healing but rising, not just surviving but living. We are not broken. We are excavating, uncovering, peeling back each hide that covers the soul. Breath by painful breath, we take ourselves back. This is not rebellion. This is resurrection. This is the holy act of remembering that we were always worthy, even in the dark, even in the mess, and even when we forgot. And now we remember.
Beautiful, man.
This idea that most of us are struggling, we're in pain, we're in addiction, because we weren't allowed to actualize. We had to fold ourselves into shapes that didn't fit in order to survive the environments we were growing up in. And the real part of us, that part of us that had to go in hiding so we could play these roles to fit into the environment around us, that's the part saying, well, if you're not seeing me and you're not hearing me and you're not allowing me to actualize, well, fuck you. I'm going to get my nourishment from elsewhere. If you can't love me and you can't be available for me and you can't accept me, well, I'm going to take the pain away with a drink, with a fuck, with whatever. So we're always looking externally for the fix. And the reality is we have to go in ourselves to fix ourselves. And this is where Ibogaine is radically different to any other plant medicine, because Ibogaine is definitely an internal job. You go inside yourself to recover the wisdom. The Beatty believe. Go on.
Sorry, I was going to just say there was a couple of things that while you were talking, I was kind of making mental note of. One thing that the human race has suffered over the last, I would say, probably 40 years, and you can see it, especially in young children. No one actually goes into nature anymore. No one goes and spends time out in the open. No one goes to walk in the forests. No one goes to swim in the rivers. No one does, everybody's got away from that. So that inner child that we had, that had the fun and had all those things that kids don't have today, that's A. And B, I think with these natural plant medicines like ayahuasca and ibogaine, and whether it's mushrooms, whatever it is that the guys are using, it's always coming from the earth, it's always natural. And it's one of those things that we've lost contact with because those things we now start dealing with, and this is more of a mystical side of things, but we start dealing with now the elemental spirits, the elementals that have always been there in nature, wherever it is that the guys are dealing with. And in my opinion, I've never done it, but in my opinion, what it sounds like is that the elementals, like you guys are seeing the African guy that seems to be in Ibogaine, and the South American guys that are coming through in ayahuasca, but it seems to be that specific elemental dealing with that specific plant, and you're always going to see that. So yes, it takes you inside, it takes you to who you need to be, but I also think you're dealing with an elemental part of the universe or the world, or whatever it is. Whatever realm, and there's an elemental realm that you're dealing with, and you're always going to the specific realm to deal with your inner, just to help.
Absolutely. I think what you said is really, really clever, and so far as that, there's two angles to this. One, I think, the disconnect from nature is fundamental in our pain. We are nature. We're not sovereign or autonomous of nature, but we've forgotten that we are nature. And, we need to return to this idea, and we need to respect nature as well, because if we respect nature, we are respecting ourselves. And if we are disrespecting nature, we are disrespecting ourselves, and I think this is really important, a remembrance that we are nature. Children get this. You put a 7-year-old into a forest, they come alive. Take the iPad off them, put them into a forest, they're there. I also think the other thing that is massively concerning in this world is the lack of village. I mean, if you look at Britain 50 years ago and you went to an average village, they had 2 pubs, they had a corner shop, they had a bowls club, they had a cricket team, they had a policeman who knew every family, they had a midwife who brought every baby in that village into life, they had a priest who knew everybody's name, the church was full on a Sunday. You look at the average British village now, people don't even know their next door neighbors. They don't even know their name. They get in the car in the morning, they drive to the train station, they go into work, they come back in the evening, they close the door, they microwave a meal, and they watch TV. So there's lack of community, there's lack of spirit, there's lack of, and then people are they're feeling lost and they're feeling lonely, and they have no community and they have no elders around them. So they look elsewhere for relief. And so as we move forward into the future, more and more people are going to be looking to self-medicate. And actually, at the moment, I think one of the major ways that people are potentially self-medicating is through living their life vicariously through an iPhone or social media.
Yeah,
It
sure.
wouldn't surprise me that in 20 years from now, probably a, a fair proportion of our clients are not going to be coming in for cocaine or crack or fentanyl addiction. They'll be coming in because they feel so lost because they're living their life vicariously
Yeah, well,
through a
that's,
screen,
yeah.
you know. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. I think, and often the medicine, what it's saying to us is return to community,
Mm.
return to nature, return to breaking bread with your friends, return to accepting your emotions and your pain,
Yeah.
return to being human.
Well, that's what I saw in my journey. I saw like how
Yeah,
disconnected we were, and I just saw like the
yeah,
pain and the suffering, and like how we just so selfish, and like how we all just about ourselves and not anybody else.
yeah. But
Um,
look, I mean, when we grow up in environments where we're not seen and heard and acknowledged and respected, and we're told to bend ourselves into shapes that don't fit, and we're told we're wrong, and we're told we're stupid, and we're criticized, and if you want to be validated, you have to behave this way.
mm,
Children are incredibly adaptive.
yeah,
They will change their behaviors to fit into the environment they're in, and if they will change their behaviors to the detriment of their actualizing I can't think of the word now, actualizing drive, if you want to call that. I mean, the reality is that at the end of the day, people end up in addiction because they don't know who the hell they are. That's really the only reason they end up in addiction, and
mm.
it's something to understand.
Yeah, that's why I mean, even with my daughter, when she's expressing herself, like if she's like singing loudly in a shopping mall or like shouting or whatever, I know when other kids are around and they're singing loudly and shouting, I also want to just tell them to like shut up, but like
Yeah,
I don't, obviously, because it's someone else's kids. But then when my daughter does it, I like cringe because I'm like, Jesus, making so much fucking noise and like getting all this attention from everybody. But I don't want to like tell her like shut up or like honey,
yeah.
just like keep quiet, like be like because I don't want to like suppress her expression. So I'm just like I just like let her do her thing. I'm like fuck whatever. I'll just like suck up my own ego and like let her just express herself. Because I know I was
That
shat on
that
as a
that's
kid and it's hurt me.
that's the way forward. I mean, it really is. I mean, look, when I work with North American clients, that there's so much trauma has been normalized that we don't even see it anymore.
Mm,
And maybe the medicine helps with that. But the classic one I seem to be doing working with American clients and North American clients is, you know, somebody tells me they've had no trauma. It's been wonderful. They had a great childhood. They had everything they could possibly ever want. And then the conversation gets to, dad, maybe. And they go turn around and go, well, dad was amazing. He worked all the hours God gives to provide for the family.
but he never saw them,
It's
yeah.
such a misnomer because he's addicted to work. He's addicted
Mm,
to power. He's addicted to money making to the extent that he's not available for his children and he's not available for his wife.
mm,
But that language of he's the best father in the world, he
mm.
works all the hours God gives to provide for his family, that is bullshit because that is about separation. That is about children not having a father online. That's about a mother being overwhelmed because her husband's at work for 80 hours a week.
Jeez.
But the language is something completely different.
Mm. Jeez, it makes
So
me
we
feel bad
normalize,
because, yeah.
yeah. And then it's, kind of, as a kid, big boys don't cry, stop
Mm,
sniffling, pull your pull your socks up. Now, what happens is if a child is criticized just a tiny bit every day, I don't like your hair, I don't like who you are, I don't like your friends, so you should try harder, I want you to play rugby, you need to man up, whatever. But when a child hears criticism hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, how does that narrative of criticism not become their own? How do they not start? How do they stop castigating themselves for not being good enough?
Yeah.
So often, I see trauma through 1,000 small cuts. Yep. And it's a hell of a lot harder to deal with than trauma that
Then
is really
X-Wing.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, we are living in a society and culture where near enough everybody is now traumatized.
Yeah,
We
we're all
have
fucked.
no sense of, we're all fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would know. Every single one of us fucked. It's like
Yeah.
that's why like I don't judge anybody. I'm just as fucked as you are, dude. We all fucked together. We fucked. That's why we all these wars and we, but anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
Anders, I think we're running out of time, and I really wanted to get into the this last thing about the. It's so funny because I brought it up earlier. I said you were talking about the irresponsibilities of the clinics, and then I said let's go into that. Sorry, my ADD, and we don't
Yeah. Yeah.
stick to
Yeah.
one
Don't
thing,
worry. I
and then we
made
went
one.
off on another thing, and we never got there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because look at the timing of this podcast that we're doing is like such a amazing timing with because Joe Rogan just interviewed again Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, and Brian Harbart, the activist of
Brian Hubbard.
Ibogaine. Like he's probably like the biggest activist there is in the
Mhm.
states doing Ibogaine, and he was interviewed on Joe Rogan 15 months ago. The both of them because they're trying to get it legalized in Texas, and Perry, Governor Perry, he's fighting for this, and now they're on the Joe Rogan podcast again. Like I don't know, it was a few days ago. It came up, and it looks like they made this huge headway. The FDA they're sending the stuff to the FDA to get approved. It looks like Ibogaine will become illegal in Texas. So, what is your opinion on that?
Oh, well, there's a lot going on. And, look, I'm very, very grateful to Brian Hubbard in a way, and I'm very grateful for what's happening along in Texas. But there's also another part of me that really, really worries about this as well. Um, First of all, is how can I explain this? I actually wrote some notes on this earlier, so I'm going to have a look at that. I mean, first of all, I think there's an evangelical narrative coming out of Brian Hubbard, where he talks about and frames Ibogaine as a magical reset. That's very, very difficult. Ibogaine is not a magic reset. It's not a panacea. It doesn't heal you. It is the individual taking the Ibogaine who chooses to heal themselves. And so, unless we hold that space properly, what you're going to get is you're going to get
Misuse.
a kind of fully medicalized model, which is run by, let's put it this way. I mean, let me have a look at what I wrote here before. Yeah, Ibogaine can disrupt entrenched thought and behavioral patterns, may create a new window of clarity not otherwise accessible. However, the experience alone does not determine long-term outcomes. Outcomes are not limited to, but primarily shaped by these independent factors: the depth and quality of preparation, and the relational and environmental context. Now, if we are going down the road where people are going to be pushed through a regulated, um, profit-driven kind of factory
Sausage
to get
factory.
out of addiction, yeah, it's going to be a sausage factory, and that worries the hell out of me. That they're going to be working with this profound and incredible medicine, but they're not going to be holding that space effectively or properly for
Yeah,
the
it just
individual.
loses all its reverence. Yeah, because it
It
becomes a
loses all.
medical, like clinical, like with when you walk into a clinic and there's fucking those neon lights above, and they've got like a lab coat on, and it's like, okay, get on the
Yeah,
bed. Here's the pill, and fuck off. And tomorrow,
yeah,
here's a cup of coffee. Go.
absolutely. And I think that the people who are behind this, as many platitudes as they can express about wanting to heal people, I don't believe that's why they're in the industry. I think they're
Mm.
there because they see, oh, there's a potential gold rush here.
Mm.
How can we monetize this? How can we commodify people's pain in order for financial gain? And when Brian Hubbard goes on to Joe Rogan and talks about Ibogaine in these evangelical terms, that it is going to save everybody, and um, it's magical and it's a panacea. Um, that simply is not true. Ibogaine doesn't heal anybody. People heal themselves with the help of Ibogaine. And
Mm.
so, if we're going to administer Ibogaine, we have to do it relationally. That's the important thing. The relational aspect of Ibogaine is where the recovery is. The clinics who do not hold their client with compassion, with respect, with reverence, see them as an individual. These are the clinics that work. These are the clinics which have an 80% efficacy rate, is when they see the individual coming through. They hold that space for them. They create a hearth in what they can heal. They get them to do pre-treatment, so they're in the right headspace. They're going in there. They're working with the Ibogaine in order to heal themselves. And when they land softly and they integrate properly, and we create community around that, that is when this medicine becomes extraordinary. But if we're throwing people through on a Monday morning and telling them to fuck off on a Friday, and all of these people are surrounded by people with white coats and stethoscopes and bloody boards, and they're writing on there, and the recovery itself is seen through, I don't know, KPIs or whatever language you want to use around that, and outcomes, and we're going to lose our way. It's going to go
Yeah.
to shit really, really, really
And
quickly.
also that
And
guy, that African guy is going to leave that we see. He's going to be like, fuck this. Might
no,
not see
yeah,
him
no, I
anymore.
mean,
Might not see that. Yeah, what the.
yeah, I mean, I think the spirit of Iboga, won't allow it to go on in the way. Ibogaine and Iboga, tends to hold a huge, great big bag of metaphorical spanners that it will like to throw into the works if you're not working with integrity. Ibogaine demands integrity. It demands reverence and it demands respect. And if these guys in Texas can't engender profound respect and reverence and intentionality and integrity and curiosity into the process of healing an individual, then it's not going to fucking work.
Well, look at what might happen, and this is going to be the last thing from my side, but what will probably happen is exactly what happened with tobacco. So tobacco
Yeah,
originally was used as a priestly North American, South American sacred herb to communicate with the gods. So you would only take tobacco at certain ceremonies, your pipe smoking ceremonies, and that for whatever reasons. And it wasn't all the time. So it was very sacred at the time, but then it became very commercial. Everybody was now smoking. And now what happened is we got lung cancers, we got all sorts of cancers from
yeah,
our cigarettes. That
Uh-huh.
was
Yeah.
supposed to be sacred is now become. That will happen the same with Iboga.
Yeah.
It's a sacred
We
thing.
saw
It's
it with
now
the
being used
marijuana,
commercial, and it's boom. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And with the
and we saw
marijuana,
this
yeah.
with the marijuana industry, how it just it was not regulated in the right way. It became very disrespectful. It was all about money, and it's kind of fallen completely flat on its face. Um, I actually wrote something to somebody on Facebook the other day where they were talking about what was going on in Ibogaine. Let's just see if I can find that. Probably not. But we can have a go. Yeah, I mean, no, I'll leave that be rather and try and look things up halfway through a podcast. Um, and look, there are people out there who've been working in the ibogaine industry for years and years and years. They are knowledge keepers. They are elders. They know how to hold the space. They know the importance of preparation. They know the importance of integration. They've done research. They've got experiential knowledge, which is incredible. Have Has Ibogaine for Americans or Brian Hubbard or Texas got hold of any of these people? No, not at all. They brought in psychiatrists and academics who have never even taken Ibogaine, don't understand addiction. You know,
Yeah, I don't
it
understand
really
metaphysics.
worries. They don't understand it. They don't. They. You know, they live in a kind of Cartesian vat of dualistic ideals the whole time. They don't really understand mystery. They don't understand compassion. Everything is written off into a,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, that's what I get so frustrated with because like I go into YouTube and I look at these guys with Ibogaine and they're all trying to explain it. They're like, the chemical of the molecule it gets onto this receptor and that's why you're having the hallucination and they're all trying to explain it through this like very materialistic thing. And I'm just thinking, okay, well then why does everybody see the African dude? Like why is he always there? Like
yeah,
why
I mean,
I'm like why are you trying to figure we can't explain it and like there's no way you're going to find it in your test tubes, you know, and that's what
yeah,
the
I
whole
mean,
Texas thing is
you
going
know,
to come it's becoming a test tubes thing.
I mean, for me, it's just embrace the bloody mystery. Be available for the mystery. Be available for the unknown. Surrender yourself to, don't try and control it. You know, when I work with clients, I mean, this is interesting, and we talk about intentions and everything. And then my recommendation to people before they go in is drop all your intentions. Don't try and control your Ibogaine experience. Say to
Mm,
the Ibogaine, or say this to yourself: I am an anthropologist, I am a researcher, I am the kindly parent I never had, all rolled into the compassionate and curious observer. I began show me what I need to see, not what I
yeah,
want to see.
yeah, that's
And I
true.
think this is very, very applicable
Mm.
with you know, I began it's too powerful and too mysterious to be bottled into a formula and put into a sausage factory and expect to have great
Can you hear Lee?
outcomes the whole way. It is really,
Yeah, I can
really
hear me.
relational.
Sorry, I cut you off
Yeah.
there. I couldn't hear you for a few seconds, but I hope that
Yeah,
Lee got it.
it's an incredibly relational thing to do, and it's about community, and it's about feeling part of something again. And the Ibogaine itself wants to restore this idea of community and compassion and mystery and love, and that's what the Ibogaine journey is about, and cutting yourself some slack and not trying to be perfect the whole time. Yeah, I mean, it really worries the hell out of me what's happening. But there again, look, let them do that. Let them bring Ibogaine to the front. Let more people understand Ibogaine, and let the Americans take it off, run with it. It will give a whole load of people the opportunity to do Ibogaine who wouldn't have done it otherwise. It's better to have Ibogaine in you badly than to
Then none
not
at
have
all.
Ibogaine. Yeah,
Y-
for not at all. So I look at that. But then what that will happen is more and more people will understand about Ibogaine, and there will be some people who will go, but you know what? I've been let down by the institutions the whole of my life. The whole of my life, I've been let down by institutions. I have been let down by the medical community. These are the people who got me on OxyContin in the first place. I don't trust that. So maybe I don't want to go through that system. Maybe I do want to find an underground provider in Mexico, or I want to find a smaller clinic who is holding that space properly because I'm bloody well worth it. Yeah.
Mm.
So, I'm pleased that America are taking on what they're doing and they're bringing Ibogaine to the forefront. I am terribly worried that they won't hold that space properly. But by the same token, there will be a whole load of other people who will hold up that space properly.
Mm.
And people
Well,
will have the choice.
well, let's just hope it doesn't come out like the tobacco, like old Lee was saying, and we just taking Ibogaine like every weekend, every weekend, or like microdosing, like we're smoking Ibogaine like every day, like 3 times a day. But the
Yeah, I
problem
mean, I
is,
see a lot. Yeah, but again, this comes back to this thing that this medicine doesn't really work for you that well if you take it unconsciously.
yeah. But just say I'm saying that, and I'm actually like thinking because I've been also microdosing a little bit afterwards, and microdosing is not fun. Like fuck it, it's like I take like it brings up all my anxiety, it brings up all my fears, it brings up everything. When I'm microdosing, it's like I'm like, and it's like it's not a comfortable experience, So like
No, it's not.
I'm clearly the
It's a
whole day.
profound.
I'm like the
It's
whole
a
day,
profound.
and it's such a small amount. Like I mean, like when I went in, I did the Iboga, so I took like I don't know 15 grams of Iboga, but now I'm taking like a quarter of a gram in the morning, and it affects me like but it's clearly to bring up whatever I have to look at. Like I'm like okay, well,
Exactly.
okay,
Because
I'm
that
feeling
actually,
uncomfortable right now. What is that? What is that? Why am I fucking feeling like that?
yeah. I mean, it's
So
it's a bit like, I always turn around to my wife when I've had a nightmare, and I'm very, very, very grateful for having a nightmare because I know that at some level things are coming to the surface which need to
mm,
be dealt with, and they're coming out. That discomfort you feel with ibogaine is purgative. It's anxiety leaving the body. It needs to come out. And so if you can go, well, I recognize what's going on, this is fantastic, rather
mm,
than going, oh no.
yeah,
That comes down to the non-acceptance and acceptance again. Um, and that comes down to your conditioning as well. If you're non-accepting, it's because you've probably had a pretty difficult childhood in some sort of way.
mm,
Um, Yeah, it's very, very, very interesting with what's happening in America at the moment. It, it's a huge opportunity to bring ibogaine to to the world, to get it seen and to get it understood. And there is a great fear that how they are going about it in America um, doesn't fully appreciate what the medicine is.
mm.
Um, but we've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, sure, man. Great. Okay, well, sorry, Lee. Um,
Cool, man.
yeah, you got anything else there? Sorry,
No,
we've gone
I'm
over
talking
time
there.
like quite a lot. So,
Not a problem. Not a problem. Yeah, I mean, really, really interesting podcast. I mean, two ADHD guys
yeah, trying to hold a
shooting the
conversation.
breeze. Yeah, wow. and 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 great. I think a lot of people will respond to that in a really positive way.
Fantastic. Anders, Lee, you good? You don't want to say anything?
Yeah.
Amazing,
No,
dude.
cool. I
So
said
good.
what I need to say.
Yeah, I loved having you on. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
And I
okay
will
then,
speak to
guys.
you
Thanks
Thanks,
soon.
very
Anders.
much.
Yeah, have a great rest of the day, eh?
I will do.
Yeah,
Thank you, and happy Easter to everybody.
Oh,
Have a
yeah.
good one.
yeah, you
Happy
too.
Easter.
You
Okay.
too.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, cheers,
Cool.
man.
Cheers, cheers, Anders. Bye. Cool,
Well,
mate.
Lee, sorry, man. You had to listen to my free counseling lesson there.
No, it's fine. It's fine, dude.
Um,
I'm more interested in the mystical side of it, the realms that you visit, and for me that's more. Look, I understand it's a healing thing, and I understand that I do. But for me, my fascination is the
yeah, and
is
it is
the is the realm.
fascinating.
It's
I
the
mean, geez, what I
yeah.
saw it was
For me,
it's
that's
really fascinating. And actually, I mean, as much as it's just such a hectic experience and it was so shit, but so beautiful at the same time that I'm looking forward to the next one. Well, it's firstly to see what it brings up and see what happens, and secondly to see those dimensions and see that all of those weird things that I saw. Like, I mean, it's weird, and I want to explore that more, obviously with great reverence or whatever. And but um, geez, I've just lost my train of thought though. But
Yeah, it's just about visiting or that mystical side. I'm like so interested in that. I'm so interested in the realms that we
Yeah.
visit. But anyway,
Yeah, but
cool, man.
anyway,
Much appreciated.
yeah, there was so many other stuff that I wanted to talk to about with him, but we're running out of time. But yeah, everyone, thanks for listening.
Yeah, cool, guys. Everybody, again, yeah, thanks for listening. Find us on all the podcasting
Yeah,
channels and YouTube.
like and
Like
subscribe
and
and leave a
subscribe.
comment of what you've experienced with your Ibogaine if you've done it.
Yeah, buy a coffee if you willing. Buy a coffee. And yeah, that's it, guys. Until next week.
All
Have a good
right.
one.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.